Welcome to the North Syracuse District Goal Indicator Introduction video series.
The intent of this series is to establish a common introductory understanding of our high leverage indicators, as well as the rubric language that is connected to each. These videos are not intended to be a one-size-fits-all or an answer key, nor are they intended to be an evaluation of one's entire practice.
Our hope is that they will support you in understanding what evidence might look like for each of these indicators and why it might fall under one category or another on the rubric. We hope this video on questioning skills facilitates your understanding and construction of new knowledge.
Each video frames the content in three ways. The mindset of considering here's what, so what, and now what supports us in articulating more clearly what each indicator is, and then applying this understanding directly to our practice.
Please feel free to pause the video at any time to meet your own learning needs. We hope this information helps us in moving forward as we build a culture of learning for both students and adults. While it might be impossible to take a comprehensive look at what research states about questioning skills, some of the leading figures in this area offer the following thoughts. Please feel free to pause the video at this point if you are interested in reading in more detail. What we do notice are some common elements in these and other research examples.
So let's consider how these bodies of research are the same and identify the major components they have in common. Whether considering the work of Bloom, Marzano, or Costa, some underlying agreement across all of their work are the following points.
Open-ended questions guide students' critical thinking and problem-solving skills.
Levels or sequences of questions can be used to lead students through text.
Teachers' use of questioning techniques enhances rigor in the classroom.
Higher order questions lead students to a deeper meaning.
Having established some common tenets of questioning techniques, let's begin to look at practice. Using these commonalities as a baseline for why effective questioning techniques are important, let's take a look at a brief video clip with these simple directions.
Click on the icon above and view this example from the 2-minute 30-second mark to the 5-minute 45-second mark.
Look for evidence of questioning techniques during the segment of a larger lesson and write down a few notes about what it looks like or what you see and hear.
Try to avoid bias, inference, or personal opinion in your notes or observations.
Feel free to pause the video at any time.
Your journals, you should have tired.
In this lesson, your tone.
Of inquiry, read and annotate or render. So what does that mean when we render the text? What does that mean?
Right.
Yes, you're underlining, you're circling. What are you looking for the first time? Imagery. Daniel, would you please read for us, The Man with the Hoe?
The Man with a Hoe by Edward Markham. Bowed by the weight of centuries he leans upon his...
Then when my students looked at the print text, the things they picked out were sometimes very discrete things. And I think that by starting with a non-print text, you activate their close reading, really, because I'm asking them first to look at very specific discrete things visually, and then asking them to do the same thing in a print text.
How would the future reckon with this man?
Though there's certainly more writing and thinking to be done, let's pause for a moment and share what our thoughts are. Shay, can you start us off? What's an image that you picked out?
The first image I picked out was the first 3 lines. Bowed by the weight of the century, he leans upon his hoe and gazes on the ground. Of course, it matches the painting we saw, but I also have a question. It says, "Is the thing the Lord God made and gave to have the dominion over sea and land." I want to just know, and I'm asking anybody in here, does anybody know what the thing is? Because I see it's capitalized like it's something important.
So we're going to hold answering that question. That's a great question. And when we share it out in a seminar, that's definitely a question that we can investigate. So
I teach students to evaluate questions, to differentiate between levels of questions, and then to generate those questions based on what their need is.
So, why did you pick out this?
William gave me that idea, and he said that an ox works in the field, and so he's in the field, so it's comparing the man and the ox.
So now, when we think of an ox, what kind of animal is an ox? Like strong. So it's not necessarily like a graceful, like beautiful animal. It's just like a hard-working, strong, kind of earthy. So when he makes that comparison there, now as you go through the end of the poem, because we've got maybe about another minute left, I want you to think about how these images might relate to that idea, right? That comparison. Okay, scholars, please pause your questioning and your investigation just for a moment so that we can share and collect a common list of questions. Let's start with clarifying questions. Did anybody have a right there or a clarifying question that they had to ask? Manaim?
It's about Shay when she talked about the thing. I think it's slavery.
Okay, so a right there question is something that we can point to, right? Right there. So would that be a right there question?
It would.
What kind of question would that be?
It'd be think and search.
That's a higher level question, yes.
And when they're investigating it, when they're taking it apart, they're activating all the different parts of their brains and really getting into stuff. And I want them to feel like that. You know, I want them to be excited about asking tough questions. I want them to ask a lot of questions.
How is this poem related to Marxist criticism?
Okay, why did you ask that question, Jitenwe?
Because when it talks about the protest, which is also a prophecy, it sounds like they're going to rebel against the people who are richer than them.
That's a great question.
I think that in the academic world, it's important because the further they go, the more of that questioning they'll have to do on their own.
Poem.
At this point, take a moment to look over your notes from the video clip as we begin to compare the evidence you may have collected to our rubric language. Questioning techniques is one of the two indicators located in Standard 3, Element 2. Note some key words in the indicator description taken from our rubric.
And now, let's look at the rubric itself. As we move from ineffective to highly effective, let's mark some of the words that articulate what evidence of questioning techniques should look like at each level of practice.
At the ineffective level, you may note some of the descriptors such as largely closed, do not invite, few students, and an opportunity.
At the developing level, you might note combinations of open and closed questions, some, and some opportunity.
As we move into the effective category, the language changes from most to open in nature and require most students to respond.
And in the highly effective level, questions are open, require all students, and students formulate questions.
As you look back at the notes or observations you made, some of them may look similar to these. When we take those pieces of observable evidence and place them alongside the key words we just noted in the rubric, how might you answer the following questions?
What evidence might reflect questioning at the developing level? What evidence might reflect questioning at the effective level? What evidence might support or refute this being highly effective? For this video segment, what level does the preponderance of evidence show? As a takeaway from looking at the research, the rubric, and a small segment of instruction, please answer these two questions as a way to apply any new learning to your current practice as we close with considering, now what?
Take a moment to consider how this teacher might have designed questioning techniques that evidence effective or highly effective instruction. And take a minute to jot down a specific example from a lesson where you could design questioning techniques at the effective or highly effective level.
As we close this video, in an effort to model the model, we would like to offer the KWLQ strategy to recap our thinking. First, this video was intended to briefly summarize what we know about this indicator. Although not comprehensive, certain commonalities across the research were identified.
Second, we wanted to know how this might look during a segment of someone's teaching and how the different levels of effectiveness are articulated within the rubric.
Third, we hope you learned about where evidence from instruction might fit on the rubric and where you might apply this in your own practice.
Finally, and most importantly, we know the next question you might ask might be, how do I do this more effectively in my classroom, or where can I go for support? Please feel free to visit both the professional development and consultant teacher web pages for more resources, ideas, videos, and supports.
We hope this has helped establish a common understanding around this indicator and that you can build on the information in the future. Thank you.